Hey, welcome to Genre Exposure, a film podcast. Join us as we explore the wide world of cinema, broadening our horizons one movie at a time. I'm one of your hosts, Dustin, and as usual, I am here with Jason.
Hey, everybody.
What is up, my dude?
Hanging in there. Been watching a couple of movies.
I've been watching a lot of movies.
Oh no.
Yeah.
You're not going to talk about all of them, are you?
Not all of them today, but
Okay.
I've been doing a little project, which we'll get into.
Uh-oh.
Today, we are here to talk about a new movie. Because so far this year, we've been stuck in the past.
60s and 70s.
Yeah, so I thought I'd bring us back to now.
Okay.
And it's not good.
Spoiler. Okay.
Well, now's not good. This movie, though, is another story.
Oh, okay. You mean the present?
The present. Present time, present place.
I was like, you don't like this?
A little humor for you there.
Okay. I thought you were talking about the movie.
No. Well, we are talking about today The Dead Thing, directed by, we'll say, podcaster / media critic Elric Kane. You may know from the Shockwaves podcast, or more recently, Colors of the Dark, or the Pure Cinema podcast. Which I know the Pure Cinema podcast, he does that with Brian Sauer, who I think does some of the programming, or maybe even all of the programming at the New Beverly Cinema.
Oh, that would explain the flyers that we
And
saw.
in this film, there's a spot where there's some prominent posters on the wall, and it is flyers for the New Beverly Cinema.
God, I would love to go to the New Beverly.
Nice little head nod there to their podcast.
I wish we had something like that
Even
here.
halfway close.
The Kentucky used to be like that,
Yeah.
30 fucking years ago. But oh my god, actual 35 millimeter, good movies. And, that would be amazing.
Did you get any of those Super 8 horror films that you saw the other day?
No, I messaged you and Michael about these cool old Super 8 horror flicks. They put them out like in the 60s and 70s because if you wanted to own a movie, you were pretty much shit out of luck unless you got these old Super 8s, and it wasn't even the whole movie. It was like maybe 25 minutes or something, and often not even in color. But it would just be, just key scenes from. They had Son of Frankenstein there. They had like the Mummy's Tomb.
The Mummy, that's like the Hammer one, right?
Yeah.
I thought so.
They had Equinox, a very interesting movie from the late 70s. Did you ever see this?
I know of it.
Okay, it was a big inspiration for Sam Raimi and The Evil Dead.
That's why I know of it.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. I was tempted to get some of them just to sit around because.
Yeah,
I'm a nerd and a geek, but I do not have a fucking 8mm film projector laying around.
It could be our new thing. Yeah, they're trying to bring VHS back. We're like, oh man, Super 8 though.
Super 8's where it's at.
Yeah, just to hear those reels turning.
But they'd be cool to have just for the artwork because they were beautiful.
Yeah, they're interesting size. It's kind of like laser discs or something, right? Like,
well, they're smaller.
They're not very practical, but they look cool.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Sure, exactly. Or even VHS for that matter.
Yeah. But before we get into that, we're going to talk about what we've been watching. And we are also part of the Prescribed Films podcast network. And we love it. And there's all kinds of other cool shows you could be checking out, seeing what they're getting into.
You should be checking
I noticed some of our network mates are doing stuff about the Oscars.
Oh, God, should we do that?
Going on, and no.
Should we live cast the Oscars?
It's not our thing.
This is a little bit of horror being represented.
It's a cool year for the Oscars, though, speaking of, because, there's a lot of horror stuff in the mix. A lot of just genre in general, right? Because Dune Part 2 is in there for some stuff.
Damn right.
If Demi Moore does not walk away with an Oscar finally, there will be riots in the streets.
Normally, I would say that there's no chance in hell because it's such a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's not a crime thriller. It's not Silence of the Lambs where they can call it something other than horror.
And it's divisive among even horror fans.
Right,
so.
But it is Demi Moore, and she's kind
it.
of Hollywood royalty, so she might get it just for that. I don't know.
And it would be amazing for all time in history. That's what she's in the books for.
Well, she was snubbed for her debut, Parasite. She should have gotten a nomination for that, for sure.
What have you been watching?
I watched a movie called Action USA.
That's a cool name.
It is a cool name. It is. It was made in '89.
Okay.
By a bunch of stunt performers.
Oh.
And
see where this is going.
Yeah. It's currently streaming on Arrow. It is directed by Jon Stewart, who also stars in it. He's a stunt man. Pretty much everyone in it is a stunt person. The movie itself,
like the Expendables, but for stunt people.
Right. The movie itself, the plot is virtually non-existent. It's basically these FBI agents have to protect this witness taking her cross country while the bad guys are trying to kill her.
Generic action plot, go.
Right. And of course, the acting isn't great. Most of them aren't real actors. They're stuntmen. But it's fine. It's passable. Some of the stunts are amazing, though. Like some really good car chases. A really good jump stunt at the end.
Ooh.
It's a very if you love 80s action films, you can't go wrong watching this. It's just turn your brain off. It's a great movie to watch with like some buds and suds,
Yeah. As you're talking about it, it's taking me back to when we watched Righting Wrongs. And it's like on paper, that's just kind of a generic Hong Kong crime flick. But then when you're watching it, it's like, holy shit.
Yeah.
The entire time.
This is like something a 14-year-old boy would have dreamed up. Because it starts off with this guy, with this really hot chick in this souped-up Corvette, drinking a beer, driving fast. It's like, all right.
I love it. Love everything about it.
And the other movie I watched recently, I shall talk a little bit about, is a documentary, which I did not know existed. Apparently, it came out in 2013. I never saw it, but I did see the band it's about last year, the Descendents.
Woo!
It's called Filmage, the story of Descendents / all. Mm-hmm. And it's really fun. It's really good. I learned some stuff I didn't know about the Descendents.
I love the Descendents.
Yeah, they're great. Fucking great band.
Classic punk band.
Although oddly, I really have not listened to all that much. Apparently, I wasn't the only one.
I enjoyed all because, what was it? Some video game. I think it was called Street Skater. Had one of their songs on it.
That makes sense.
I think it was Honey Peeps.
Okay.
Really fun song.
All right.
So they got on my radar early from that.
I need to go back and listen to some of all. But, if you're a fan of punk, if you like the Descendants, you can't go wrong watching this documentary. It's on Amazon Prime. It's free.
Fun.
Go for it. And if you haven't seen the Descendants live, I don't know if they're going to tour anymore, but if they come through your town, go see them.
Worth a shot.
Yep.
Cool.
So those are my two movies. What about you, man?
Any streaming shows? Anything else in that world?
Not really.
No.
I'm finally wrapping up the last season of Evil. Mm-hmm. It's a show on Paramount, which is fine. It's extremely uneven. Like some episodes will be stellar, and the next one will be just dog stupid. But it's fun. Other than that, no. I'm very, very, very excited for the new season of Andor. Which the trailer
soon,
recently
coming soon.
dropped. Yes, and you need to watch the first.
I think we've got some Daredevil to get through before that next Andor, but.
Well, you got to get to that. I won't be getting through that.
No, didn't not a fan of Daredevil.
You know me, I'm not in the Marvel stuff anymore.
Oh, that was the good stuff.
I don't do it.
Okay.
And actually, I never really was a fan of Daredevil.
Ooh.
I don't know why.
Okay.
Anyway, what have you been watching?
Well, first, just to cap off from last time, they finished the first season of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Great ending, great little coda.
Yeah.
Set up a ton of stuff. So many plot threads they can pull on for the next season.
Threads, huh?
So
like a web.
I'm digging it. I'm excited. Ready to see where it goes.
Okay, cool.
Now, as far as movies, I have a bunch to talk about, and I'm going to try to compartmentalize these some. So, in the other RPG group I'm in, that you're currently not a part of, we meet on a different day, we just started playing the Alien role-playing game. That's the whole... Ridley Scott, James Cameron, Alien universe. And in the lead up to us starting the game, I was really excited and was wanting to get into that headspace and be all ready. So I decided to do a crazy rewatch of the entire both Alien and Predator and AVP franchise, but in rough chronological order.
Okay.
Which means mostly all the Predator films come first.
Yeah.
And then the Alien franchise pops off because... that's just kind of the way they've gone with when they're set. Now, I know that technically they're their own continuities, and there's 3 timelines. There's an Alien timeline, a Predator timeline, and an AVP timeline. And they're not supposed to mash and mix or whatever, but I don't care.
Sure.
I wanted to watch them all. And in the context of pretending this was a unified world.
Okay.
So I think today I'm going to rapid fire through all the Predator side of things.
Oh, God.
Because I've been working at this for a month now, and I also at the same time was watching so much other stuff. I was trying to get all this in. So, boom, wind it back. I started with Prey. That's obviously the earliest set one.
And is the only other Predator film I like besides the original.
Great fucking film, super good. Ember Mid Thunder, fucking amazing in it.
Yeah.
it does kind of retread the premise of the first one, but I think the historical setting gives it like a much more interesting flair.
Right.
That it's not just like a soulless retread.
Right.
The Predator itself in there is like a really cool thing. They call him like the feral Predator. His tech's a little lower quality. It's not as advanced as the others. And whether that's a reflection of their society or that he's like a lesser caste or something that use like lower tech. Man, it's just super good, super fun. Love the little head nod where they reference the gun.
Yeah.
That's from Predator 2.
Right.
Just all around super solid film. Don't have a lot to say negative about it. 1987, the original Predator, Stone Cold classic.
Oh, yeah.
You come for a cool, like, in the jungle war movie with some badasses at the helm, and then it veers into a crazy sci-fi horror film.
Once again, I just want to say how I miss movies like that.
Yeah.
We don't get them anymore. Because it's so simple and it's so, it's well executed. It's a well-oiled machine.
It is.
The structure is perfect. You get action. You get a little bit of horror. You like the characters. It's just, we don't really get that anymore.
And it was interesting with the context from Prey because you have the character, I think his name is Billy, who's the Native American of their team. And there's that great part where he kind of stays behind to try to 1v1 the Predator and buy them some time.
Right.
And now I think canonically he is a different tribe than what they are in Prey. But it kind of, in the context of both those films, gives you that thought that, like, oh, he's maybe heard stories about this type of creature before.
Passed down. That's kind of fun.
And so that's like a fun little, like, link between films.
Well, even if he's from a different tribe, it doesn't mean there wasn't some, story shared between them.
Yeah. So I thought that was super cool.
That actor was also in porn.
More power to him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not criticizing.
Good-looking guy.
It's a little side note.
Oh, well, if you want to run down that path.
He was also a politician.
Hit up the internets and start Googling. Following that up, 1990, Predator 2. Now, a lot of people don't like this one.
I actually have not probably seen it since it came out.
I really quite like it. I think Danny Glover is fucking awesome in it as the lead. Just like a sick of this shit cop.
That's standard Danny Glover. Yeah.
And it's crazy how like they imagine 1990 LA.
It's just a fucking cesspool. It's like endless violence.
The Warriors tier, like apocalyptic gang movie city. And the police are like on their back foot. They can't get the gangs under control. And then whoop, a predator shows up, and it's the whole same thing again, but now it's in the concrete jungle.
Right.
And that's such a cool little twist and a little change. We start to get hints of like the greater, I guess, like meta narrative stuff to do with the predator. There's like the government research thing going on, wanting to study them. Which I totally forgot that Gary Busey plays the dude who's the head of that whole program, and it was weird to suddenly remember that yes, he can act and he can play a character, and he's not just like a crazy personality. But that one's super fun.
Gary Bill Paxton in that one too. Always welcome.
Yes, and I like I think the way it's shot and like the color of everything. Like there's like a blue tint kind of over everything a lot of the times, and then that meshes well when you start to get like the predator's blood, and it's like that neon-y green glow to it as well.
Right.
And then that ending where he bests the predator, and they gift him with a token.
Pistol,
and of course, it also sets up the initial like crossover-y things, because again, when we're on that ship, we get the sight of the xenomorph skull,
which was a fun little wink back then, but it spawned a whole fucking franchise that I'm not a big fan of. So,
well, now speaking of that franchise, I kind of count these with the Predator side of things. So then we jump to 2004's AVP, Alien vs. Predator. Very contentious film, I'm going to say.
Yeah, it's awful.
Because it's got some good ideas, I want to say, but it's also
awful.
Executed very awfully.
Yes.
Love everything about like the Wayland Corporation and kind of having an early version of what that's eventually going to become in the Alien franchise.
And Lance Henriksen's in it.
Lance Henriksen, that's some fun little DNA connecty pieces. Super cool, like the Antarctic like research thing.
Sure.
And this idea that there's like a certain caste of predator that use the xenomorphs as like a rite of passage hunting thing. And they kind of have like this ancient pyramid thing where it implies like they would come in the past and be worshipped by humans, and completely contradicts the lore of all other franchises in the process.
Yep.
But it's still a fun and neat idea. Where it goes wrong, I think, is like the predators look really funny in it. I don't know. They have like very much dude in a suit vibe in a way that doesn't feel like authentic.
Oh, yeah, but the movie's not shot well at all.
And then all the fights are just very dark and lots of like quick cuts, and you don't really see what's going on.
Yeah.
But we get some cool stuff. We get like Grid, the alien that gets like its face partially cut by the net. So it's cool to have little named ones. You can be like, ooh, sure. I love that one.
Yeah, the hero, predator, and/or alien.
And when it's also one of the only other ones where we get some good like alien queen action, where she goes on a rampage during the climax. We get a cool big epic fight. Otherwise, pretty forgettable film.
Yeah.
Other than at the very end, it teases us with the idea of a predalien.
Right.
An alien birthed from a predator. Which, of course, then they follow up with the sequel, 2007's Alien vs. Predator Requiem, which is arguably, I'm going to say, among all three franchises, probably the most dogshit film of all of them.
I've never even watched this one.
Even as much as I disdain Alien Covenant, Requiem is like a step more stupid and just completely worthless. So the good in it, I think everyone loves the Predator in this one, that one like badass, I think they call him Wolf, who's just like there to clean everything up and try to make it all square. He's a super badass. He's really cool. I like some of the lore stuff about how they cover their tracks, where he has like that goo that just like dissolves everything into nothing. So anytime there's any trace of like the aliens or anything, he's just like, oh, douse this.
Wasn't that like something in the X-Files or something?
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's been so long since I've seen the X-Files.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, so it picks up like right from where the prior one ended, and the Predalien causes that ship to crash in a rural, I think it's a Colorado town, very wooded area kind of thing, and Predalien goes about making more xenomorphs and going on a rampage. The Predators dispatch one of their own, this expert elite hunter, Wolf, to kind of kill it and take care of everything and cover everything up so the humans don't know, because they're not supposed to know.
Should have sent bounty hunters from Critters.
That would have been cool. Just drop some Krites in there, too. Why not?
Oh, hey, fucking yeah.
That's a crossover.
I'd watch that
Critters
one.
versus aliens. I'll do it. But the problem is that while you have all this epicness of like, oh, the Predalien is rampaging and Wolf is trying to hunt them all down, the human side of the plot is just the most boring, like bottom level teen horror film bullshitty drama of like different characters with shit going on. Oh, here's this dude's older brother who just got out of prison and he's just trying to put his life back together, but no one trusts him. Oh, here's the pizza delivery guy that everyone thinks is super lame, but the hot chick secretly likes him even though her boyfriend bullies him. And it's just so much just blah, no one cares. The one thing I will give it some credit for, and it's why I think I gave it. No, I did give it 1 star. Never mind. I was going to say why I gave it more than 1 star, but I gave it more than half a star because it is funny and to the extreme levels of like mean-spirited. Like there's this part with like a kid and his dad out hunting and they both get face-huggered. And you think somehow they'll have the kid be okay or like they'll save him in time. Or no, it just fucking blows out his chest. And
that's cool. I respect
goes
that.
on a rampage. And there's several times like that where there's like a sweet thing that happens between two characters or something. You're like, aw. And then they just both fucking get killed. Doesn't matter. There's a part where like the military gets involved and they're wanting people to like gather for an evac. But actually, they're just going to nuke the whole town, and they're just trying to get everyone to the center of the town to be sure the blast kills them.
Nice.
So, like, the only survivors are the core heroes that are like, no, fuck that. They're probably going to kill us.
Yeah.
And yeah, by the end of it, like, almost everyone's dead, and there's just a few survivors. So, I like that aspect, but it's just, everything is so dark. You can't see anything going on the entire time. And just the human plot is just so terrible.
Right.
So forget it. Whatever. Revisit it when you do one of these marathons and then never speak of it again.
No one does this but you.
So next I jump. This is the one contention part of my timeline that I put together. So I went now to 2018's The Predator, which is technically the 4th one in the franchise after 2010's Predators.
Right.
And there's a debate on which one of those comes next in the timeline. There's some lore bits in The Predator that seems to suggest it should come closer to Predator 2. And ultimately, Predators is set on an alien planet, and there's almost no references to guess when it takes place,
right? Other
than like some wars that are referenced.
Yeah.
But also, it seems like the cast in that is like each one almost feels like they could be pulled from a different era.
Yeah.
So then you think about like how cryosleep works in the Alien franchise, and maybe they were abducted at different points in time and then just all kind of dropped on that planet. So I went with The Predator next, which is also a pretty shitty film.
I fucking hate this movie.
Due in part to being helmed by Shane Black.
Fucking hate this movie.
It's really dumb. It's really over the top. It picks up the premise of the government researching predators and trying to do stuff with that. And we have kind of like, I guess, some jarhead military guys, and they survive an encounter with one, and the lead dude gets captured, and they try to quarantine him and all this BS. And
this movie has a great cast, too, and it completely squanders it. Just squanders the cast.
Boyd Holbrook, Trevante Rhodes, Sterling K. Brown, Jacob Tremblay, Keegan-Michael Key, Olivia Munn, Thomas Jane. Lots of great people involved. Unfortunately, the plot gets really stupid, which I don't mind so much, because there's a lot of fun, like, big, dumb action scenes that I think are actually really good set pieces. But, unfortunately, they have this whole subplot about the lead's kid has some form of autism. Mm-hmm. And they frame that out into this whole thing about, like, having autism makes you a super genius.
Yeah.
And you can magically understand the predator language and technology.
Right.
And it's just so... You get what they're trying to do, but it's so mishandled and so just, like, haphazardly done.
Yeah.
That it almost comes across as offensive.
Yeah, a little insulting. Yeah.
And a little insulting. And then we get into, like, what the deal with the predators are, because there's the one, and then a more giant one shows up. And so they introduce this stuff that's backed up by the novels, unfortunately, because I went to go see if this is like a thing or not. Mm-hmm. There's different casts of predators. And there's this one very elite cast that actually fool with like genetic modifications. And the prey that they hunt that's actually talented, that can thwart them, they eventually want to get samples of their genetics to mix in with their own DNA to make themselves greater hunters.
Okay.
So that's why you have like these super predators, as I think they call them in the film. Which unfortunately, again, is looped back around into that autism plot, because they're like, oh, we need the child because he is superior to all other life on Earth.
Right.
Which is just... Don't do this plot if you can't do it with some subtlety.
Yeah.
And then it ends with the crazy send-off of, like, the lower cast of predators was trying to bring humanity a super suit that makes them as strong as a predator so they could help fight off the other ones. And... Mm-hmm. I doubt we'll ever go anywhere with that one, but
I hope not. But this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. A new movie versus like the Predator, or the original Predator.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example of the way movies are made now versus the way they were made then. Not that everything in the 80s was great and not just dumb.
Yeah.
Because there was plenty of that. But there was just more care,
But the Predator is like all constantly they're shouting explanations at you about everything, and
it's just stupid.
Revelations. And it is sad because the core team of like the misfits that he puts together to kind of save the day, they're really funny. I like their interactions and how each one has like some little idiosyncratic weird thing about them.
Yeah.
And then that brings us to 2010's Predators, which is the end of the timeline for me because it's set at a nebulous time. Again, it's a bunch of people of varying... phone call. Uh-oh.
It's okay.
Is it an emergency? Do you need to take it?
It is not an emergency,
okay, you're a busy man. I never know. But yeah, helmed by Adrian Brody. I think he does a good job, at least with his character.
Oh, I think it's Shane Black. He's pissed off at us for those.
We uttered his name and it summoned him. It's got some other big people in it. Topher Grace, Alice Braga, Lawrence Fishburne, Walter Goggins, Danny Trejo, Mahershala Ali, who may or may not be Blade. I don't know. I don't think they know. Derek Mears is in it too. I think he plays one of the Predators.
Oh, yes.
Which is a good horror fandom shout out.
He plays the Jason Predator.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just a bunch of people dropped on a planet. It's a hunting reserve for predators to use. This one also kind of gets into there's like some caste struggle between different tiers of predator. Mm-hmm. So it's not like the Predator pulled that from nowhere, but it's a lot more subtly done here.
Yeah.
Where you can tell it's just two factions and they disagree kind of about how to do things. It's all right. It's fun, I guess.
It's fine.
It feels very much like a retread of the original, but just with the alien location.
I didn't hate myself for watching it, but I don't feel the need to ever return to it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's my Predator marathon, and I'll maybe next time around tackle the alien side of things, which
movie for movie is better than Predator for sure. I mean, there are some stinkers, but
I'll say pound for pound, it was a more fun franchise to go through and film by film re-experience.
Plus the highs of the Aliens usurps that of Predator films.
Hits some much higher highs, for sure. But that's all I got, so I think that brings us to our movie of the day.
The Dead Thing.
So yes, The Dead Thing, 2024. Some people want to say 2025 because that's when it debuted on Shudder. It did screen at festivals in 2024. That's always a weird, confusing thing, so I just defer to IMDb and Letterboxd. And
2024.
They say 24, so it's 24. Directed by Elric Kane, written by Elric Kane and Webb Wilcoxon. I'll hit you with a synopsis.
Do it.
A young woman lost in a series of meaningless connections falls in love with a charismatic and sensitive man who hides a dark secret that turns her affair into a dangerous obsession.
Dun, dun, dun.
Love it. Love everything about it. Great premise.
Good premise.
Now, before we get too deep into the weeds on this, what genre is it?
Well, if you look at IMDb, it's every genre. It's dark romance, psychological drama, psychological horror, steamy romance, whodunit, workplace drama, horror, mystery, romance. It's all the genres.
Man, they're really trying these days on IMDb. Wiki refers to it as an erotic drama or an erotic thriller.
See, I think just because there's a little bit of sex and stuff doesn't make it an erotic thriller.
It's very much about romance for sure, and even sex and desire, but it didn't have that sheen of the erotic thriller for me.
Right, like it's not really tittillating. And it's not
part of the erotic thriller is like the erotic scenes have to titillate.
Yeah,
and here I don't think so much.
No, they're very matter of fact.
Yeah,
which
made me a little sad. I'm gonna be honest.
No, nothing wrong with that.
It's okay.
That's a reaction.
Where do we start with this?
I guess we start at the beginning.
Start at the beginning, yeah.
Well, we get a title sequence basically over a girl being pleasured. But we meet our lead, Alex.
Yes, played by Blue Hunt.
Yes.
Who I thought was great as this character.
She's pretty good, and she, she is the lead. She's in pretty much every scene. So, but she is good.
She is in New Mutants, which again I've never watched because that was like that last gasp by Fox. But she played Danny Moonstar, who I think she's actually a great pick to portray that character as a comic fan. So,
all right.
I don't know how the film shook out, but that's cool.
Was she having relations with an endless string of guys in that movie as well?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not as such, no.
Well, in this movie, she is.
She is, yes. They have we're just going to go ahead and call it Tinder, but they have their in-universe.
It's called Friction.
Yeah, Friction.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, she frequents this, finds hookups, and then dismisses them.
Yeah, and we get this. It's very almost, I wouldn't call this an art house film, but it has the brushstrokes of it. And this intro with this cool melodic piece playing, and it's these super cuts of she's swiping through guys. Mm-hmm. It cuts to the bar. It cuts to them hooking up. Yeah. It cuts back to her looking for guys on the app.
And it's all very robotic. It's obvious she's not really getting anything out of this.
Very robotic. Her face is very mute the entire time. You don't get any sense of pleasure in any of this.
Yeah.
It's just she's going through the motions.
Right. And she's at work and she's getting a text from a guy who she has labeled as fuckface.
Yeah.
Asking if they want to hook up again. And she's deleting the message. She starts to reply something. Yep. And she just deletes it because she doesn't want, or she can't make a lasting connection with anybody.
Good observation.
Thank you.
And so instead she chooses to ghost him.
Yep.
Okay, get it? You get it, Jason?
I do.
She ghosted him?
She ghosted him.
Yeah.
Minor spoiler. But she's kind of uncomfortable around her coworker, who is also kind of awkward.
Yeah, he's a little weird, and
She works nights. She
works nights at an office.
Doing basically what you did once upon a time, isn't it?
Yeah, so this film hit really weird for me because her job was basically the job I had for 10 years.
She's like scanning documents.
Scanning in documents. Yeah, and it hit hard, man. I was really like,
and
fuck.
Flashbacks.
Fuck, this is getting me right now.
But it's basically her and just this other dude all night long.
Yeah. And they chit-chat and stuff, and they're friendly enough, but it's like, it's just one of those kind of like go along to get along at work situations.
Yeah. But she's looking through the friction again, and she comes to rest on this one dude, good-looking guy,
Nice-looking guy.
But he's got this really beautiful cat in the picture with him.
He does. It's adorable.
So then I'm thinking to myself, oh, it's just going to be like a stealth cat movie.
And this is Kyle, played by Ben Smith Peters.
Who's also very good.
And he's in Furiosa.
Oh, okay.
And Fury Road, actually, I think. Yeah.
Was he one of the War Boys?
I believe so. Let me see.
That's cool.
Oh, God. Why are there so many people in this movie?
It's okay. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. None of this matters.
He's down there somewhere.
Yeah. So she hooks up with this guy. They go to the bar.
And immediately there's like a chemistry between them. It's not like the other times.
Right. And she kind of opens up to this guy a little bit, talking about how, like, don't you feel like every day is just the same?
You wake up, you do the same things, you go through the same motions, you feel the same. The next day could just be the same as the day before. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there nodding my head very aggressively because I remember how I felt when I had an office job where all I did all day was scan documents into a computer.
And he's kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever. And she kind of changes the subject and asks about his cat. And he says, no, it's not my cat. And I wrote in my notes, fuck this guy.
Yeah, it was a friend's and they just took the photo. And
he's using a cat as a prop. Yeah. I don't agree with this.
Also, he's got some moves, too, because he pulls the whole, like, I don't think we need to talk.
Yeah.
Put hand on shoulder.
Yeah. It helps that he's hunky, know. But yeah, they go back to her place and they hook up.
But it's different this time. It's not just the immediate close off, throw on the bed.
Right.
They talk for a while. They chit-chat about their lives, about their dreams, their ambitions.
They listen to some music.
Yeah.
Do some drawings together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she does like to draw.
Mm-hmm. And there's kind of a throwaway line about how he doesn't have his earbuds with him, so they use hers. Mm-hmm. Something I remember later.
A cute little, split earbud moment. Mm-hmm. They do hook up, but even in that moment, it's more passionate. There's more that spark between them there.
She's definitely more into it. We also meet her roommate here a little bit. Her name is Kara.
Kara, played by Catherine Hughes.
And she's gone through a bad breakup. Looks like she was engaged, but we don't really find out what happened until later, but we get the impression that her boyfriend was cheating on her.
Yeah.
So they're having a bad breakup.
And there seems to be a weird amount of detachment between the two of them. Like maybe they don't get along anymore.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just that Alex is so lost in whatever she's in that she's disconnected from their friendship.
Right. And Alex is asking Kyle about things about him, like what do you do? And he's kind of dodgy about it. He says he works at Scotty's, some place called Scotty's.
Yeah, some restaurant called Scotty's, and he's real vague. And they have this cool, I guess, a moment before when they're about to go to work in the morning, and you can tell they don't want to part, but they know they have to.
Right.
And
yeah, they have a little smooch, and then she's off, and she gets to work, and she's in a much better mood. She's dancing around and joking with her coworker. What's his name? Mark? Yeah, Mark.
Yes.
And he's like, oh, okay. And you immediately know he's going to start hitting on her, any minute now. But she's, she seems to be actually made a connection. She feels better about herself. And she tries to text Kyle, but now she is the one getting ghosted.
Yeah, and it throws her for a loop because she doesn't get ghosted.
Yep.
But now she is.
And she slowly kind of gets more despondent as he does not reply. And then, Mark, the coworker, comes up to her and is like, hey, is there something going on here?
Is there something between us?
Yeah, something between us.
Which, let me share this for listeners. If maybe you're perhaps a younger listener tuning in. based on 10 years of working in an office experience, don't date your coworkers.
Yeah, and that's what she says. And that's a good excuse. It's a good out. It's a good way to let him down kind of gently. She's like, well, I got this policy. I don't date coworkers.
It's a good policy to have.
Which is a good policy.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I have more than once broken that policy, and it doesn't end well.
I've just watched it go real bad. So, sitting from the sidelines at my said scanning computer and smirking as shit goes off the rails. Yeah, don't date your coworkers.
Mm-hmm. Although, funny little anecdote is that for a summer, I actually worked for the woman who is now my wife. Oh. We were just friends then, but I worked this job in the card office to help pay for the divorce from my first wife.
Well, hey, there's exceptions to all rules, but in general, that's a good rule to have.
It is.
So never say never.
But we weren't dating at the time. Mm-hmm. I waited to date her until well after that.
You probably also didn't corner her against a wall and be like, so is there like something going on between us? Or like,
no, I did not.
What's the deal?
I did not. She did that to me. Which I respect. I like it when women take charge. So she's getting more despondent and more desperate. And so she goes to that place, Scotty's. It's like a restaurant.
Yeah, it's like a little like diner kind of vibe.
And she's kind of looking around. He's not there. There's this girl working.
She asks her, and the girl's new. She's like, I just got hired because they're short-staffed. I can ask my boss. I can leave him a note, but I haven't really even met everyone on the team.
Yeah, and Alex is like, good, can I leave a note for him? So she writes a note. Okay, great.
And isn't it when she's leaving there, she thinks... No, it's not yet.
Not yet, because she starts going back on the friction.
Yeah, because what are you going to do?
Right. And she's with this other guy at a bar, and she's just completely checked out. She doesn't give a shit about this douche. And then out of the side of her eye, she sees fucking Kyle with another chick.
Yep, on a date.
And they're leaving the bar. So then she's like, oh, I'm sorry. And she leaves this dude.
And we get a really great scene of her stalking them. And I love this. It was like just so, the tension was really high.
Yeah. She's just following them. She's like the spirit or whatever it is from the movie It Follows. We get it from that perspective.
But it's from The Following.
Yeah.
But yeah, she tracks him all the way back to this chick's house, and
which he goes into.
He goes in.
So she goes back to Scotty's the next day, and the girl there is like, "Oh, I'm really sorry."
I hate to tell you this, but
she hands him his obituary. Dude's dead.
Yeah.
Ergo, your ghost pun.
Yeah. And Alex is like, no fucking way.
Yeah. It's like, when did this happen? And it's like a new obituary. It's like, something that they
and
just...
She's like, I just saw him last night.
Like the service just happened,
And she's obviously upset and intrigued a little bit now because it's like, what the fuck's going on?
And the girl working there is like, yeah, it happened just right around that corner. Mm-hmm. So she goes to the corner of the street, and we see like this ruined pair of earbuds down there at the drain that she picks up.
Implied that it's his.
All frayed and like crushed. So then Alex goes back to the apartment of the girl that he saw Kyle leave with. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what's going on with there?
She's like, this is going to seem weird, but your date with Kyle. So.
But she says, did you meet him on that Friction app? And the girl did.
And so she's starting to get some thoughts of like, well, what if I like match with him again?
Mm-hmm. So she deletes her account.
And is also, makes a new one. Is it during this part where we see like what happened when he went in the house with the woman? Don't we see that too?
I don't remember.
Because they like make out a bunch and he sees his reflection and his reflection is like all bloody.
No, that hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
No, that's later.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
That's a key part.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so she makes another account. Swipes to it until she finds the picture of him with not his cat,
but a cat.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And she matches again. Mm-hmm. And he is totally like, he doesn't know her, doesn't recognize her at all. And they set up a date.
Yep.
And the date's very interesting because like she immediately launches into like, don't you remember me? Don't you know who I am?
Yeah, she's like showing him the drawings and all this stuff.
And he gives her like the same lines of like, I don't think we need to talk.
Yeah.
Do we?
Right. It's almost like he's just a recording or something.
Yeah. Which, if we know our types of hauntings, kind of tracks with
repetitious
that.
Kind of. Yeah. But she doesn't want to hook up. She's freaked out. She goes back to work, and then Mark gets grabby with her.
Yeah.
He won't take no for an answer and crosses the line. Gets all grabby, so she gets pissed and she leaves. And she goes outside, and Kyle's there.
Mm-hmm. Followed her there.
Yep. And he's asking about the drawings.
And he's like, this drawing's me. How do you have it?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
And she hands him his headphones, and he's kind of looking at them, and then she sees his reflection. Yeah. And then he's covered in blood, fucked up. Not really in a gory way, but obviously he's run into a bad time. Mm-hmm. He doesn't look like Pascal from Pet Sematary or something.
That would make it real interesting. Then we're getting into some necromantic territory.
Yeah. But yeah, so she's kind of freaked out at this reflection, and then he looks and sees himself, and sees the reflection, and sees that he's all bloody and basically dead. Then he kind of yells and screams and backs up, and the editing here was a little weird for me, because she runs back in, and we hear more screaming, and it was from Mark, who was on the floor, and his nose is bloody, and he says, stay away from me, and then runs off.
I think the implication is that Kyle attacks Mark.
See, I didn't get it. I got that later. I didn't get that implication at all.
That was the vibe I got.
Okay, you got that immediately?
Yeah.
Perhaps you're more astute than I.
He heard her kind of being bothered by him and was like, get away from my girl.
Right. And that's kind of obviously of Kyle for a little while.
Yeah, we pick up more of some of Alex's other issues going on. She comes home, and when she comes home, the ex of her roommate is there.
Yeah, we see her laying on the ground at first, and we think maybe she's dead. Mm-hmm. But she's just drunk. She's wearing her wedding dress.
Yeah.
And Alex is pretty much like, just get over it, take the dress off. The guy is a piece of shit. Don't take him back. Don't worry about him. Be like me and don't care about people. And Alex tells her she's being pathetic, but then her friend says, no, you're the pathetic one because you can't even make a connection with people.
Right.
Basically. See, implied. Also, Alex gets a new coworker. And he's kind of cute and flirts with her.
And this is Danny, right?
Yeah.
He kind of has that, or is it Chris?
Chris.
It's Chris, yep. And Chris kind of has that, goofy, funny guy vibe.
He's more of an everyday guy than Kyle,
Notably, he has these bright red shoes.
Yeah.
That look really stupid. And I think it's later they have this conversation, but just to bring it up now, he says that he always was concerned with trying to look cool back in the day, and he realized if he tried and he messed up, it looked even worse. So he just bought something dumb and just wore it, he bypassed the entire.
It would accidentally look cool or something. And she's like, no, it doesn't work. So you can tell they're kind of starting to get along. Mm-hmm. Then we see a woman waiting in a bar.
Yep.
And then Kyle walks in. And they have a little exchange.
This is the part I'm thinking of.
Yeah, this is the part you're thinking of. Because she's like, oh, wow, you look like your profile picture. And she starts to talk, and he's like, do we really need to talk? His line. Mm-hmm. And they go back to her place.
Gets him every time.
Goes back to her place, and she ain't fooling around, man.
This is probably the steamiest the film gets.
Yeah.
They had some good chemistry together. However, as they're getting hot and heavy, he happens to glance up and look in the mirror, and again sees that he's dead.
Yeah.
Freaks him out a little bit.
And there's a couple of lines the woman has, because she wants to do it on the couch. She's the bed is for sleeping or for dying, and that kind of makes him stop for a minute.
Dying.
And then he sees her earbuds also on the coffee table, and that makes him thinks of his. And then he looks over and sees he's all fucked up.
And he kind of goes berserk.
Starts
choking her out, which, if you're into that, it's okay, but she did not give consent.
Yeah, so. I don't think she was not into this, no. But she's being lifted up on the ground, and she can't see him anymore. He's invisible.
I like the way they shoot this too, where you'll see one shot of him actually choking her, and then it'll cut, and you'll see her just kind of floating against the wall.
Right. Yeah.
Really cool editing to make that vibe.
But eventually he stops before he kills her.
Kind of half-heartedly apologizes, runs off.
Yeah. And then he takes off. Meanwhile, Alex and Mark are getting closer, But then it looks like Mark has a girlfriend because they're having this little cutie thing going on. But then he gets like a text or something and has to leave the room. So I don't know what's going on there.
And again, I think it comes up later, but just to get it now, it's a long distance relationship. He had to move out there for work, and they're trying to make it work, and it's
those never work either.
That's always a difficult thing. So.
Yeah. So Alex gets home to find Kyle laying on her bed. And he's talking about, like, he's starting to remember things.
Yeah, it's starting to come back to him now. And it seems like the exact moment he died was when he matched with Alex.
Right. And apparently he was just like her. He was always using friction. He was just doing hookups. And yeah, as soon as he saw that he matched, bam, he gets hit by the car and dies.
And it seems like that's put him in some kind of, like, between life and death loop.
Yeah. He has a line something like, he says he slept with so many women in his time, and he thought the time would never end. He thought it would just keep going that way. And he's scared because he doesn't know what's next, what's going to happen now.
And at first she kind of tries to console him about that idea, but it more just becomes like, hey, just stay with me.
Yeah, right. She's like, okay, you don't have to go. So then they just fuck a lot.
Yeah. And I like the way these are shot because, again, it tries to do the, like, them acting together, but then you see it and it's just kind of her laying in the bed, running around.
Right. Yeah.
Cool visual.
Mm-hmm. He's like a less rapey ghost from The Entity.
Yeah, sure. Or, I mean, well, don't state that now because things do change.
Yeah.
Right now, he's like a less rapey
But the
version.
thing from The Entity was like from the get-go. Just...
It's from the rip. It was all it existed to do.
But she has to leave to go to work. He's trying to get her to stop.
He's like, no, just stay.
Yeah, but
why? What? Call in. Your job sucks. You hate your job.
She's like, no, I got to work.
And I've been there before.
But after she leaves, he's kind of like spying on Kara, who's calling her ex to come get his shit.
And this is Paul, played by
Paul's
Brennan
her ex.
Magia.
Yeah. And like later that night, like she looks over to the door where he was standing. Of course, she doesn't see anything, but she has a sense that there's a presence there. And later that night, he's kind of fucking with her. Like he's like holding his hand over her mouth, and she wakes up and startled, but no one's there.
It's almost like he's testing the extent of like what he can do as a ghost.
Yeah.
Now that he's aware of it.
Yeah, it's like a more evil Patrick Swayze from the movie Ghost.
I was going to mention that film because there's some connective tissue there. Yeah. But yeah, so Alex goes to work finally. And when she gets there, there's someone in her desk.
Well, no, that's a little bit later.
Oh, is it? Okay.
That is a little bit later because she goes to work, blah, blah, blah. But she's kind of ignoring Chris.
Chris, yeah.
And Chris is like, okay, fine, whatever. And then she gets back home, and that's when she goes home and has more sex with the ghost.
Isn't that also when Paul's there? And there's that awkward thing where he's like trying to talk to the roommate, and then they like... Well,
Kara she's apologizing to Alex and says they need to have a girls' weekend sometime.
Yeah.
And then, you get the sense that there's definitely a strain on their friendship here.
Mm-hmm.
And Alex is slowly getting more obsessed with Kyle. Like she's more and more despondent.
And these scenes are very like slow, dreamlike.
Yeah, we see a lot of them interacting, a lot of them having sex.
You're not really supposed to know how much time's passing.
Right. Then she's trying to leave finally, but he gets a little more forceful. He's like forcing her to the floor, telling her to stay.
He starts to get a little rapey.
She's like, fuck off. I got to go to work. And that's when she gets to work.
Yeah, there's someone at her desk.
Someone's at her desk, and then Chris is like, what the hell's been going on? We've been trying to call you. It's been 9 days.
And she's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So, yeah, she's lost all this time, doesn't know what's happening. And meanwhile, Kara's ex finally gets to the house to pick up the stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's when we see the flyers for the new Beverly. Because he's writing a note.
Yeah.
And Kyle's kind of watching him as Kara gets back, and she's like telling him to go, get the fuck out of here.
And he leaves the stuff. Because
she's mad that he was like in Alex's room doing something. He says, oh, I was leaving a note. You weren't here, blah, 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 blah. He leaves his box of shit. And this is when I had a big issue that bothers me a lot.
Which is what? Share with the class.
So at this point, Alex is missing 9 days.
Yeah.
And Kara thinks nothing of this.
She's in her own shit.
Not that much. Your own roommate, if you don't see them coming out of the room for like 9 days, you're going to check on them.
I mean, she probably did. And she's
gonna
probably
be-
like, knock, hey, Alex, what's up? And
Maybe,
she
but
just hears them fucking inside.
I don't know, man. 9 days. I think that irritated me.
Oh.
Like, and it wasn't something I thought about later. Like, as soon as I saw it, it irritated me. Anyway. So the ex gets back to his house, his apartment, and he's looking around, and oh, fuck, that box is there. He's like, I didn't bring that box here.
Thought I left that there.
And
That's a clever ploy to have an excuse to go back again.
Yeah, right.
Which, never do that, by the way, if you're in that situation.
No, God, just get your shit and go. But then he gets attacked.
He does, yes. Kyle attacks him.
Yep.
Because now we're into the phase of the, like, I need to isolate Alex from everything in her life that distracts her from me.
Yeah. But also what set him off is that
He read the note.
Paul was writing a note to Alex, not Kara. And Alex was the woman that he had sex with.
Yes.
So she stooped her roommate's fiance.
Which, in the scheme of things, leads me to think that he was the fuckface in her messages.
Yeah, right.
That she was ghosting.
Exactly. Oh, Kara finds the note. Kyle comes back and smothers Kara with a wedding dress, kills her.
Because now that she's seen the note, she'll obviously want to kick her out. Can't have that happen.
I suppose. Puts her body in a closet, it looks like. So you see the door shutting on her.
He's really masterminding things now at this point.
Alex gets back, tells Kyle that she's lost her job and doesn't know what's going on.
He's like, don't worry about it, baby.
And he's like, what do you mean don't worry about it? It's been 9 days. But then he starts getting a little pissed because he shows her the letter from Paul and it's all accusatory. You know?
He's like, well, you into Paul now or what's going on?
Yeah. And she's freaking out because what if Kara saw it? And
he's like, don't worry.
Yeah.
She doesn't know.
He's all like, oh, it's okay.
I took care of it.
I'm here for you. It's fine. But he's getting grabby again. She's kind of fighting him off. She says that he can't stay. He starts to get upset. He says he's scared and doesn't know what comes next. And she says, none of us do.
It's like that for everyone.
Yeah.
And you just gotta face it.
And he's kind of choking her. And then he kind of has this realization, and then he's gone. And then she's kind of going through her phone and deletes his profile.
Yep.
Then we get like a smash cut to her just kind of laying in the sun outside on this big rock. Turns out she's with that Chris guy from work.
Agreed to go on a little vacation out of the city, which was a thing in one of their combos earlier, where she kind of mentioned the whole like grinding down of her life thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it sounds to me like you need to get out of LA.
Right.
That's what I do.
But I was also ready for this whole sequence to not be like real because of the cut itself.
Because it was such a hard cut.
That, and also it's like, so what about her roommate? Did they not find her roommate? Did she not? Her roommate doesn't show up. Did she like leave immediately with this guy? Did the police not come and say, hey, this Paul dude's dead? It's another lapse in logic that keeps me from...
Well, I think we can say, based on the film up to this point, I don't think Alex always makes the most sound decisions about her life.
Sure, but I mean, I think you're going to know if your roommate's not around. And
she's not around. Oh, she's probably dealing with Paul, whatever. Oh, you want to go on a little trip? Let's go on a trip. Why not? I need to clear my head anyways.
I don't buy it. I don't know. It's stuck in my craw. So yeah, they're hiking around and we see them in the pool, and he tells her about his girlfriend, long distance relationship, and he says that he ended it as soon as he met Alex.
Yep. He said, I realized I got feelings for you.
Yeah. And she's kind of like, well, is it cool if we just take a little time? He's like, yeah, it's cool.
She says, I don't think I'm ready for a relationship yet. If you're cool to be patient with me and go slow.
And he's suddenly glad that pool is cold. It's like, yeah, okay.
And he is, at least for now, the first person in this film that's a dude that's not like a total dickbag.
Right.
And it's like, all right, sure.
Yeah.
I can wait.
Sure.
It's no big deal.
He acts like a rational, normal human being. Yes.
Who respects another person's autonomy.
Right. But she gets out of the pool and walks off, and he's kind of just chilling there for a minute.
She says, I'm going to go shower. I'm going to go get dressed up. Let's go have a nice dinner somewhere.
Yeah.
He's like, all right.
But then he gets jawsed.
Yep.
He just gets like dragged under the water a couple of times and then does not come back up.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of liked this progression and like the escalation of what Kyle's doing. Because I thought this was a cool way to take it.
Yeah.
Because the next thing that happens is Chris shows up back in their motel room, but he's not himself.
No. Like
Kyle has possessed him.
She's on the phone to somebody, and we find out later that she's calling Kara finally. Oh, I haven't seen you for like 3 days. Well, that's weird. I wonder where you are. What's that smell coming out of the closet? Oh, well. But yeah, she's on the phone, and we see Chris come in, kind of in the mirror behind her, and he's all like sopping wet. Mm-hmm. She gets off the phone. She's like, "Did you forget your towel?" And like sits next to him. But then he kind of like grabs her leg and turns to her, and like water spilling out of his mouth. What a cool imagery.
At first she wants to be like, hey, I thought we just talked about this. And then she's like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Turns out like Kyle is like puppeteering his body.
Yeah. And he says, I figured it out. I can take over his body and we can be together.
Yeah. So then, he's physically attacking her again. She gets pinned down.
Cool scuffle, too. It goes for a good bit.
Yeah, and he admits that he took care of Kara because she says something like she has to get back to her or something.
Mm-hmm. He says, don't worry about her. I already took care of her.
Yeah. But he keeps telling her that he loves her and needs her, and she says this isn't love.
It's very unrestrained, toxic love.
But they're outside, and he's on top of her, choking her, and she's dead. Yeah. She dies.
She perishes.
Kind of like we saw before when they were having sex and stuff. He just disappears, and she's laying there, lifeless.
Yep.
And then we hear her full message to Kara.
Yep. Owning up to what happened, apologizing, and saying that she wants to talk about it in person and make amends to her and repair their relationship.
But then we see her at the bar talking to some guy.
Just like the opening scene, she's there at same bar every time, same spot.
Yep.
Random dude she's matched with.
And then she picks up her phone and sees her reflection. And she is dead as well.
Yep, you can see the bruising on her neck where he choked her out.
So she is now cursed to, I guess, do this for eternity.
Be in that cycle, that loop, that endless loop that aren't so many of us caught up in when you think about it.
Indeed. And that is the movie.
Yeah, baby. The Dead Thing. I've got some background notes. There's not a lot out there.
Yeah, it's a brand new movie. There's not a lot.
It's super new. I hope sometime he'll do like a podcast where he maybe talks about
that'd be cool.
The production and everything went into making it. But it was directed by Elric Kane, co-written by him and Webb Wilcoxon. Yellow Veil Pictures is the company that has the rights to release it, which is cool. I think a lot of their stuff that gets a home media release is sold through like Vinegar Syndrome. So I don't know if this has got a nice Blu-ray on the way, maybe, but I would definitely pick that up, especially if it had any kind of extras on it at all. I noticed in the credits, amusingly, Matt Mercer was apparently a producer on this.
That's funny.
Famed voice actor and I guess
critical
role personality. And I noticed also that fellow podcaster and friend of Elric Kane, Rebecca McKendry, is an executive producer on it.
Okay, that makes sense.
So that's cool that she got to be involved as well.
Podcasters unite.
Podcasters unite. Don't make films about us, but let us make them ourselves.
Right.
Let's see, what else? Peterson, that plays Kyle. So he was a stuntman in Fury Road and Furiosa.
Okay.
And for Furiosa, they were shooting it around the same time, and he was contractually obligated to shave his head. And at first, they didn't really want him to have that look in this movie. Mm-hmm. And so he was like, I'm going to have to pick one. And he was like, I hate to turn down George, but he's like, I really want to do this with you, Elric, kind of thing. And apparently, Elric told him, go on and go to George Miller and do your thing, and we will make this work.
Cool.
And it was just, they shifted some stuff around. They're like, well, whatever, the shaved head, that's your character's look now. We'll just roll with it.
It works.
No reason to try to change it.
That look is in, you know.
Oh, yeah. And definitely, like, you know, he's super hunky when he first shows up at the bar, so it works.
Hair or no hair, you know, he's hunky dude.
It got its world...
Hunky boy.
He's a hunky boy. Call up Psycho Gorman. But it had its world premiere at Fantasia, the 2024 Fantasia. So that's cool. And it debuted in February on Shudder. Currently, right now, on Rotten Tomatoes, if you look at all the reviews averaged together, it's got a rating of 88% out of 25 critical reviews.
That's good.
So that's a pretty decent score for it.
B territory.
Its Letterboxd score has not fared as well. It's sitting right now at a 2.8 out of 5 stars.
That's still above average.
I, of course, always like to skim the low star reviews just to see what's going on out there, you know? 1 star, no dead things, that kind of thing.
There are dead things.
There are dead things. You can't say that. A lot of it's just like, this is too slow. This isn't horror enough.
Right.
That kind of thing.
It's on a jump scare every 10 minutes.
Which, by design, that's the way this film is. And if you're not open for what it's doing, you're going to immediately run into that problem.
You actually have to watch it. I'm sorry, guys.
Is what it is. Now, there's lots of other film comparisons you can make with this movie, I think. I mentioned last time, and I'll bring it up again, that Kane's a huge, huge fan of Zalowski's Possession.
Well, yeah.
Him ranting excitedly about when the Blu-ray first came out was how I found the film.
Nice.
Which led to me seeing it, which led to you seeing it.
Well, I got definite Possession vibes during her scenes where we see her sans Kyle.
Yeah, on the bed, writhing around.
And, stuff,
and even the score, too, kind of has that, like, classical but a little weird vibe to it, which the score was by Michael Krasner and Robin Vinning.
It's a good score.
I don't really recognize them, but it's a great score. I liked a lot of the pieces, especially the ones where it's like the slow ambience and then you'll just have like a little piano noodling kind of going on. Really atmospheric and helps the mood just right. I thought the style the film's presented in is really cool. There's some other maybe modern horror flicks that have done the same sort of thing. I don't know what you would call this or if like there's a textbook term for it. That kind of like it's cold, it feels a little detached kind of presentation. I want to reach for the word clinical, but I don't think that's quite right.
Yeah, that's reserved for like Cronenberg films.
Because when I think clinical, I think I'm a scientist staring at this with no emotion, and that's like a Cronenberg-y kind of vibe.
I would use the word detached.
Detached, yeah, I guess.
Which is very much like our main character, because she's detached from everyone else.
One film it made me think of was 2016's Personal Shopper.
I never saw that.
I don't know if you've seen that.
It's Kristen Stewart, right?
Yeah, Kristen Stewart, directed by Olivier Assayas. Just a very slow, very somber film. It is a ghost film. Technically, is it horror? It's one of those ones like you can make the argument, I guess, either way.
Yeah.
The horror parts in it are very slight, kind of like in this film. This film, I guess, does lean further into the horror.
I think it's comfortably in the horror category.
But something like Personal Shopper, it's like it's got that like pinky dipped in.
Yeah.
But it has that same like going through the motions of life, detached kind of energy going on. I wanted to highlight this just because I've seen it come up in a lot of reviews. A lot of people have compared its style and tone to the films of Jane Schoenbrunn. They made 2021's We're All Going to the World's Fair, and then 2024's I Saw the TV Glow.
I still haven't seen those. On my list.
Basically, I'm sharing these for like reference points for like, if you liked this, people say check out this.
Right.
I actually hated both of these films, and I feel bad about it, but I just didn't like them.
It's okay. You don't have to love everything.
Um,
just because it's indie doesn't mean it's good.
Fair enough, yes. So nothing personal against those films, but if you've not seen them and you kind of like read their premise and think they sound cool and you dug this, maybe look into branching out there. But for me, this didn't work for me, so it's whatever. But yeah. Keep your eyes on those, though, if you haven't seen them. That's all my connecty points, I think, other than just my general thoughts on the film.
Cool.
So,
yeah, I don't have any trivia myself. As you said, it's so new, I haven't.
I guess, should I give my thoughts first since I picked this?
Sure, go for it.
We'll let you wrap us up. I think you're going to pull us down a little more to reality because I quite like this one.
Yeah.
But I really loved like the broader themes of like heartbreak and struggle and being able to like move on from the past, and the way that kind of when you're in the shit in the moment, it can really linger with you and effectively, quote unquote, haunt you.
Yeah.
And I like the metaphor it's drawing with this like Tinder-esque app. And the way that kind of reduces the entire aspect of like romancing and dating people into just like this very detached,
it's an algorithm,
very
rematched.
Cold mechanical process.
Yeah.
And I pulled this because I saw it recently too, and I was like, oh, this kind of meshes with the film. There was a recent study that was trying to survey people, basically determining how heterosexual couples met and started dating and got together. and they were collating data from similar studies going all the way back into like the 1940s. So that kind of, generationally over the decades, they could track how that's changed and evolved and gone. And so, unsurprisingly, today, the number one is meeting people online.
Right.
That's about 55% of everyone that's ever been surveyed.
Nobody fucking goes anywhere.
And it took first place in 2010 from the former king. That former king was meeting other people through friends.
Yeah. The right way. Nothing against many people online.
So it's just interesting the way that's changed, and like that is the world now.
Sure. We live our life online.
Yeah, we live our life online, and it's both helped to connect so many people across great distances, and
it's
also in a lot of ways has vastly isolated people.
It can be the best thing in the world, and it can also be the most evil, horrible thing in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unfortunately, it's normally the latter.
Unfortunately. Also, and I gotta say, I know we made the joke earlier, but on his podcast shows and stuff, Elric Kane is actually like super, super funny as well. So I applaud him for keeping like the dark and serious tone of this film. And
right.
I'm sure the temptation was so high to make a ghosted joke with the way the Tinder thing works, and then that it's an actual ghost. But so props to him for playing it straight the whole time.
Okay. Yeah.
I just really fucking love this film. I thought it was excellent. It's subtle and slight. It's not one of those big swings where it's going to really wow you and like blow you away and be like, this is the new most revolutionary film that's ever been made, and nothing ever is going to be the same since. And I don't think even it's like condemning like hookup culture or anything like that either.
No.
It's really just making that observation of like how when you pull romance out of the equation and you are just treating it like an algorithm, that does kind of wear.
Sure.
And run you down.
Right.
And leaves you in this sense of like numbness, which is I think a problem that all of us to varying degrees struggle with social media. Everyone's different with it. Some people love to share and some people don't want to, and sometimes the more you share, the more you feel alone.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool that there's this movie that's on the one hand a very conventional, modern, like haunting ghost story, but then it's also talking kind of about all this deeper stuff with the way we use technology and the way that's changed how relationships work, and the search for like meaningful connection with people. And even as we try to do that more, even the methods and the pathways we're doing that through is like at the same time making us more alone.
Right.
So it's interesting. I think it's awesome that there's a film that's like talking about all that stuff and putting it out there into people's headspace. So I gave this actually 5 stars.
Wow.
Just because I didn't have any criticisms really hardly. I wished it would have been steamier, but I also don't think it needs to be. And maybe in the end that also kind of works to its message and its tone, and
I don't think it needs to be.
Kind of the stance it's wanting to take on things.
Right. Okay, cool.
So, yeah,
all right, well, high praise. Okay.
Tons of love for me. And I am not just saying that because he is a podcaster whose opinion I enjoy and I've listened to a bunch. I also love Rebecca McKendry a ton. I think she is like brilliant when it comes to discussing horror and talking about it and like historical stuff and its impact. And she's very, very scholarly. I've seen several of her films, not all of them, and I haven't really ever really cared for any of them.
Sure.
So
yeah.
It just is what it is.
Sure. I mean, I think that's fine because nothing is more subjective than a horror film, especially.
For sure.
Okay, yeah.
So what did you think?
I liked it, not as much as you know. I do like what it has to say about modern society, about how, we're all just so fucking detached, and it's hard for a lot of people to make connections. To me, it didn't. It's well acted. I mean, it is. It's. I'm not saying this in a disparaging way. It's a good. It is a small movie, and that's a good thing.
Well, we always say make it within your means,
right,
and it'll show better.
Right, exactly. And I think he was very astute to do it that way. I think for me, it just didn't. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I do not regret watching it at all. I liked it.
There were some plot beats that kind of hit funny for you.
It did, yeah.
That's the one thing I picked up from your discussion.
Right. Especially toward the end when she's gone for 9 days, but no one seems to notice or care. And maybe if they didn't have that scene with her roommate wanting to reconnect right before that, I wouldn't have it wouldn't have stuck in my craw as much as it did. Because if it was more like they're drifting further apart,
totally on the outs,
and she doesn't want to even see her or whatever, okay, that explains it, fine. But wanting to reconnect, I cannot buy for 9 days the roommate doesn't check on her, especially if she's hearing like moans of ecstasy constantly coming from the room. That's a bit much. And those things just stick in. I can't. Those logical gaps. Something like The Substance. I discarded so many issues I had with that movie. It still kind of keeps me from enjoying it as much as it should.
You had the same feeling when you watched it.
Right, but it's also so over the top and such a cartoon, you don't think about those things. But this one's more grounded in reality. And it sticks in my craw more than it should, maybe. I don't know.
Some may say it's more about just the idea and the feeling, like it's a tone poem.
And that's fine. That's fine.
Oh, remember that swerve?
I do, and I stand by it. And that's a thought. That's a theory. But when everything seems grounded in reality, and then suddenly that stuff doesn't seem to matter, it bothers me.
Okay, that's fair. I'll give you that.
Okay. But overall, I do think it's a pretty impressive debut. It's a good script. It's well acted. I don't know. It's shot fine. It doesn't annoy me like a lot of low budget movies. It doesn't look cheap.
No, it has really good visuals. I like a lot of the scenes of her like walking in the city, especially that bridge shot of like the little bridge that's going over like a road and cool vibe.
At the end of the day, I give it 3 stars. I think it's good. I don't think it's great. I'm glad I watched it.
All right.
I think it's a good film. I think it shows some promise to come. But it's probably not something I would revisit personally.
I would, for sure.
Well, you said you'd buy the Blue.
Yeah, I will. I'm buying it. If you'll put it out, I'll buy it. Said it here today.
But I did enjoy it. I don't want to sound too harsh on it or anything. I think it is a very good movie.
And if it piques your interest, it's on Shudder. Easy to get at. Check it out for yourself.
You really should have Shudder. If you're a horror fan, you should have Shudder.
See what you think. Chime in, let us know what you thought about it. Send us an email or hit us up on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram. Any of that kind of good stuff. But what are we going to be getting into next time?
Okay. I guess it's my pick next time. So we are going to go with a movie. Change gears here a little bit.
Okay.
We're going to go to a decade that I have many conflicting feelings on. We're going back to the 90s, but it's 1990.
Oh.
It's that weird time between the 80s and the 90s.
It's still kind of the 80s. The 90s hasn't figured itself out yet.
Yeah, but we're going to go back to a movie directed by Stephen Frears called The Grifters.
Okay.
The cast you may recognize some people from it. It's got John Cusack in it, Annette Bening, and Angelica Houston in one of her best roles. She's so fucking good in this.
Nice. Okay.
It is not a horror film per se.
Looks like a crime film based on the poster.
It's usually called a neo-noir crime thriller.
Oh well, neo-noir, huh? Let's get into that old walnut.
So and it's pretty easy to find. It's streaming on several platforms.
Like where?
I believe it is on Amazon Prime, if I'm not mistaken.
Cool.
I could double check that real quick, if you would indulge me.
Sure. Stephen Frears, I'm not familiar with a lot of his films.
Yeah, he does a lot of stuff like back in the 90s, but nothing else is
High
really...
Fidelity, Dangerous Liaisons.
Yeah. High Fidelity has its following. Looks like it's on Fubo. It is on MGM, Paramount Plus. No, Prime Video. Prime Video, okay. And Paramount, yep. So, pretty easy to get.
I can dig it.
Cool. I hope you like it.
We shall see.
We shall see.
So look forward to that. And again, let us know what you've been watching, what you've been checking out, movies you think that we should discover and talk about and share on this show. We're still taking those. We will pepper them in as we can when it makes sense. Just take a little break from those because we're running out.
Yeah.
The well is getting dry.
Well, we still got several disturbing films I do want to go back and visit soon.
And aside from all those social media places, you can hit us up at genreexposure@gmail.com. Always happy to hear from you, whether it's just a hey, what you've been watching, something for us to watch, or your own comments or criticisms on the show and any of the films we've talked about. Otherwise, be strong, hang in there, keep moving forward, And you have been listening to Genre Exposure.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.